The GovX Show is supported by Forrester, helping government organisations perform at their best. Visit forrester.com to learn more.
Hi, welcome to another episode of the GovX Show. I'm Tim Coulthard, Community Director here at GovX Digital. And today I'm joined for a conversation by Alison McKenzie-Folan, who is Chief Executive of Wigan Council. We're going to be talking about what the last year has been like for Wigan as an organisation and then as a wider community. How things had to change, what have they done to adapt to the pandemic, and what have they learned that they're going to take forward and build upon for the future. The recovery is starting to sort of take shape in a lot of organisations. So Alison's going to share with us how Wigan are treating that and some of the amazing projects they've got going on there to help the community recover. I'll be along at the end to share some information around Alison's involvement at the GovX Digital event coming up soon. She's taking part in a fantastic panel. But in the meantime, here she is. So Alison, welcome to the GovX Show. It's great to have you join us today.
Hi, thanks so much. I'm really excited to be joining you. Thank you.
Good, I'm really pleased to hear it. We've spoken before about some of the work that's going on in Wigan, and we're interested in exploring some of that ahead of you joining one of our panel sessions at the conference as well. So we're going to drill into some of the work you've got going on, some of the change that's been happening in the last year, where times are tough and a lot of things have happened that maybe haven't been our choice, but now I think there's a sense of we're rebuilding and sort of starting to map out the future. So interested in talking about some of that with you today. But starting at the beginning, let's just find out a bit more about you, your role as Chief Exec, but tell us a bit about your sort of route to this point in your career and what you're focused on right now.
I hate these questions, I never like talking about myself, but I was 20 years in civil service before I joined local government. So always thought I'd probably be a career civil servant, but had an amazing career there, but jumped into local government about 12 years ago, working for Wigan Council, an amazing place to work, really great sector to be in, loads of innovation, lots of partnership work, real sort of collaboration, and most importantly, a real public service ethos working for our local residents. And I got my dream job back in 2019 to become Chief Exec here at the Council. Previous to that, I was the Deputy Chief Exec here and also Director of Customer Transformation. So I've had some amazing opportunities, worked with a brilliant political team and senior management team, but most importantly, amazing staff and all of our partners. And also really part of the team here at Wigan that developed the Wigan Deal, which is quite well known in local government circles in terms of really sort of thinking about our relationships as a council with our partners and communities, and most importantly our residents. That's a little bit about me. I've also got a great interest in digital technology. So in particular, been working on lots of digital transformation work and how much digital plays an amazing part of our lives, and most importantly for me, how it can deliver better public services and improve people's life chances. So obviously part of our conversations, and the digital innovation work has been a big part of the work that we've done on the deal here in Wigan, and also a massive part of our pandemic response to COVID. And then I suppose the last little bit, really also passionate about the role of sort of arts and culture and how that improves people's health and well-being. And we've been doing a lot of work on a cultural manifesto, really bringing cultural partners together, artists, and really doing that place shaping work. As a Chief Exec in Wigan, you also get to work across Greater Manchester with the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. That's 10 councils, and you take a lead role there for particular areas, and my two areas are arts and culture and actually the environment. So massive issues on climate change as well. So big things to deal with. Very exciting, and keeps us busy anyway.
Absolutely. And for your digital teams, having a chief exec that that kind of gets digital and is motivated to see what that impact can be from those digital transformation pieces. It must be great for them, because the conversations we sometimes hear is it's about if you don't have that top level buy-in for transformation types of projects, it's very difficult to make it stick. It's very difficult to get the kind of cultural piece. So lucky them, I would say, to have you sort of, you know, driving it from the top down and really supporting that work.
I'll let you ask them. I'll let you ask
them.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it could be a slight irritation as well. I'm always ringing them up or checking in to see how we're moving on things. But no, I think it's really important to show that sort of, well, I'm really interested, so I like to listen and learn. But I think, you know, showing that support, showing that visible leadership and just being there as part of the team, really sort of pushing the boundaries of some of our creativity and thinking. So it comes with our culture that, you know, because one of the things that we've worked really hard on in Wigan is our behaviours. So we had 3, but we've got 4. So be courageous, be positive, be accountable, and then more latterly, be kind. And actually that theme of kindness has been so important, hasn't it, during COVID, and really permeated everything that we've done. But on the sort of be courageous theme, I think that's been really a positive thing, particularly on the digital front, about actually, you know, let's try things, let's really sort of be innovative, let's see how we can really improve public services. And I think that's where digital can play a massive part.
Yeah, I had a conversation this morning actually with one of our partners, MadeTech, who do a lot of work with public sector sort of digital transformation projects, and their CTO was saying that often the challenge that he's trying to help them overcome is not a technical one. It's about that risk and reward appetite, and the idea that you can try something, it might not work, but that's okay as long as you learn the lessons from it. And I feel like in the past year, certainly what we're hearing back from the public sector is that some of those projects that maybe were on the back burner or people were sort of hesitating about, partly through necessity, they've sort of taken the leap and have made some of these changes and have, you know, pivoted from sort of maybe physical service provision to digital and that sort of stuff. So I guess this is a point at which we can sort of take stock before we look at what the future might hold. What's the past year been like for you as an organisation in terms of how you've had to work, you know, in terms of your processes and systems, and then also how that's then met reality in terms of how you've been delivering services to your citizens in Wigan?
Yeah,
I guess there's a lot to unpack, but I guess the key area.
We'll sort of we'll keep through it and see where it takes us. But it's incredible, really, isn't it? If you think back in the reflection, and obviously so much sadness, but also so much good has come of what's happened over the last 12 months. I mean, as you would expect, the immediate priority has been the health and well-being of people in the borough, and that had to be the overriding priority for everybody, really, didn't it? The country and every town, every city. So recognize for me that, you know, our frontline services and delivering those frontline services, we really needed to make sure that we had capacity in our work. I think one of the things that we got on top of really quickly was making sure that we could redeploy staff to all of the critical services. So imagine sort of working in IT, probably wasn't IT people because we needed them working in IT, but imagine working in finance or in legal services, and then next minute you're on the front line doing humanitarian aid or in adult social care. So we deployed 900 staff completely into new roles, virtually, you know, over a matter of weeks, and that was to respond to our communities, adult care, social care, and making sure that we could keep critical services like waste collection and all of those things going. So amazingly, people stepped up to that challenge, despite, you know, personal risk really going into situations. And do you know what it's shown us? That actually many of them don't want to go back. They've actually got desire to do a flourishing new career. So we might lose all of our people into new areas. So I think that innovation came through. I think another thing was actually just setting up new services virtually overnight. That if you think about traditionally, in this sort of, like you said, this sort of people finding things quite risky, we perhaps wouldn't have done it, but we turned a hotel into a rest and recuperation centre near to the local hospital. So that was, again, deployed staff, and that was a safe haven for people coming out of hospital who weren't quite ready to go home. So we could free up the hospital in terms of COVID patients. Getting the homeless community supported. Where digital again came in really was I think we were really heartbroken to hear that people in our care homes and people in hospital had lost that sort of family connection because of COVID. And virtually again, sort of overnight, we donated hundreds of iPads both to the hospital and to our care homes. So essentially people could stay connected to their loved ones. So again, sort of that simple thing and that sort of simple act of kindness, you know, digital devices have really kept us all together, haven't they, in terms of that connectivity. And I think going back to, you know, sort of another fundamental part of your question is, we were probably doing about 60 Microsoft Teams meetings a year before all of this. And then basically we told all of our staff who could go and work from home, and the IT team were amazing. They just basically switched us on to be a complete digital organisation virtually overnight. Wow. Everybody went to work on Microsoft Teams, and I think that sort of adaptability, that flexibility, and seamlessly sort of being able to just switch the organisation overnight was just incredible and so important. And many of the things that we've learned we'll retain.
Yeah, and it's I mean, most organisations have sort of cultures and behaviours written down or on the wall, you know, with nice colours and design around them. But it sounds like for you, they were tested and everybody sort of came through, and that those behaviours really held true, and that your teams across the organisation really stepped up and delivered on what they said they would, which must be a sort of immense source of pride for you as a sort of leader, but then also as a colleague for the same folks. So that sounds like there's, like you say, some of them are almost like they've had their eyes open to the idea of, oh, actually, maybe I don't want to be at desk. Maybe I want to be doing sort of something on the front line in sort of service delivery. Are there any other areas where the changes that you made in the last year are really going to stick and you're going to take those forward? Maybe they need, you know, retooling a little bit. Now you've got a bit of time to sort of like assess and take stock. But what do you think from the past year that you've adopted that you might then carry on as sort of business as usual into the future?
Yeah, well, just going back to the other point, I think we've definitely got sort of a reservist model for a workforce now where, you know, if anything happens, we have got that flexibility where people can step into roles. And as you say, some people are now actually retraining and having different careers, but it's also shown that sort of ability in local government to have a really sort of diverse career where you can have that flexibility and perhaps move between frontline roles or perhaps move from corporate roles. I think one of the certainly things that we are going to look to keep is really the new way of working and reimagining the way we work. So looking to change our offices into collaborative spaces.
Okay.
So that ability to work wherever is productive for them and their team. So that could be the office, but it could be home, it could be a community space, a local coffee shop. And we're working with our staff to get them really involved in that co-design. So, I mean, I don't have an office, but as you can see there, the backdrop, I've been in a cupboard somewhere, but we've done hot desking and flexible working for quite a number of years now. So the town hall and many of our admin buildings are flexible workspaces. You come in and you find a desk or book a meeting room, get on with it. But what we didn't really, we didn't have that hybrid approach where you could use the technology like we're using today and have people in different locations. And I think one of the things that we'll do is, I suppose, really extend that ambition to have flexible working. So we've got a working title at the moment called My Place, Your Place, Our Place. And what we're saying is let's develop this new thinking together. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm doing some sessions with the senior team here, talking to managers, listening to them, listening how it's working for them, and then going out and chatting to staff, and we're giving them a toolkit. And essentially what we're saying is we trust you. We know it's made a lot of people's lives much easier to be able to, I don't know, go to the shops at local time, fit in childcare or caring arrangements, go for a walk, celebrate your green spaces. So it's massive that we really promote this, and massive implications for climate change, isn't it, in terms of staff not jumping into their cars and really helping to meet our other ambitions around carbon reduction targets. So definitely that. And then I think another one, before I sort of let you ask a few more questions, is we'd really pushed on concept of place-based working. So working out in our communities, close to communities, with partners. So not just, you know, a council and council staff. It's very much police, the NHS, primary care, community partners all coming together. So we're really pushing this, you know, the ways of working in neighbourhoods much more closely and working across organisational boundaries. And also, I suppose, harnessing the local economy. And I think one of the things that we've been really working on is supporting small local businesses. So Wigan is a really massive borough made up of a series of towns and district centres. And what we're saying is that we're really sort of trying to support that sort of local economy and sustain your sort of local, you know, your local centres. So a big push on that, what we're classing as community wealth building, sort of local jobs, local skills, that local agenda. So that's another big area as well that we'll really hone in on.
Yeah. So that recovery and sort of growth aspect. I mean, you know, I guess we're returning to the high street and sort of seeing what's left. Oh, you know, what's reopened and what hasn't. You know, who survived, who didn't, and it's a kind of brutal assessment. But that's the reality a lot of places are going through it right now. And then the question then becomes, well, if we've got a bunch of empty premises, what do we do with those? You know, both in the short term, so that we bring some life back to the high street or bring some life back to our communities, and then long term to give those buildings or that real estate sort of sustainable future. So in terms of that recovery, what are the sort of key areas of focus for you in Wigan? I guess not just you as Wigan Council, but then also the partners that you're working with as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'd been doing some of this sort of place shaping before the pandemic, so we've got some big town centre projects on, because one of the things when we've listened to our residents is they want their town centres to be, you know, thriving places. But I think recognition that town centres are emerging even before the pandemic as something different. You know, certainly in our centres we've got too much retail space. You know, in recognition that more and more people had already been shopping online. So how do you repurpose that space into arts and culture, into community space, into space where you can have events, families come together? You know, it's really sort of reimagining that high street, isn't it? And we've done a lot of work around that already. But I think what COVID has done really, isn't it? It's really sort of sharpened the focus on some of this really, you know, sort of quite stark economic challenges that we're all facing. Unemployment for us has doubled since the start of the pandemic, so it's really serious. And we've got 19,000 residents who are claiming out of work as part of their universal credit. So that's probably about 1 in 10 people. And it really affects some of our hardest hit communities, and particularly the younger generations, so those 16 to 24-year-olds. So the impact is a real concern. And if you imagine then the end of the furlough scheme, you know, people are thinking there's going to be redundancies. So I think for us, those pledges, you know, the recovery area, we want to really, I suppose we want to be really bold and very proactive. And you know, as a council, we've been really fortunate enough with our financial management to think about investing. That's been, you know, from some prudent financial sort of management strategy that we've been doing. So the key areas that we're looking at is really sort of supporting the local economy is one of our areas that we're really pushing on. Also supporting the health and well-being of our people is really important. So we know that a lot of people, you know, have got issues around mental health, low-level anxiety, and that's going to be a real issue. We want to confront some of the local inequalities that we've really been highlighted. And then I suppose the other big area for us is regenerating our places. Like you say, it's time to imagine, you know, things different about working with, particularly with our communities, and listening to what residents want about regenerating our pledges. So with that, we've sort of pulled together a recovery strategy that we're working on at the moment, but it's very much doing that in partnership with other organisations across the borough, and most importantly our residents, and taking on board their particular views.
Yeah. So is there sort of a lot of consultation and conversation with the community going on at the moment in terms of what that might look like?
Yeah, so we've been doing COVID surveys, so that's been, I suppose, less about listening and more about sort of, you know, taking a sort of temperature test or views. But we are planning from sort of May onwards and throughout the summer is to do much more listening events. So we had a big listening project before COVID where we went out to about 90 places across the borough and listened to residents in a sort of more, you know, sort of face-to-face forum.
Yeah.
And what we're intending to do is continue that in May and beyond the summer. Lots in terms of using digital technology, but where we can obviously also doing that sort of face-to-face contact as well. So again, a bit of a hybrid approach, like the return to the workplace, really. It'll be a sort of really embracing the use of digital, but at the same time still doing that sort of face-to-face engagement. So yeah, we've got a big listening festival happening from May and beyond. So I think one of the things that is really important to us is getting alongside our community and listening to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that, and you referenced this already, that you know, Wigan's not an island, and it's part of a region with a great sort of collective identity and a sort of commitment to working together, and that you have, and I know we've spoken in the past, and you've referenced the sort of the idea of the Wigan family, and that it's about a collaboration between community and agencies, public sector, private sector, voluntary sector, whatever that might be. So how important, I mean, now possibly more than ever, how important is the idea of that collaboration between different agencies so that Wigan can kind of build back stronger, hopefully?
Yeah, it has always been essential, but I think now it is critical, really, isn't it? I think we've shown through COVID for many years that partnership working and that integration is strengthened, but through COVID it was really tested, and it really sort of evolved even further during the pandemic about how communities, volunteers, the private sector, small businesses and the public sector came together. So we'll continue with much of that work. So we've got a really strong Healthier Wigan partnership. So that's the GPs, the hospital, the council, all of our sort of health services, and we've got great collaboration there and cooperation. That's going to be really important, isn't it? Because we've seen the health impact from COVID, and we really need to think about, I suppose, you know, breaking down the blockages and barriers that you get sometimes from across organisations. And we've shown now, haven't we, that we can do it.
Yeah.
So we've got no excuses that, you know, we made, you know, between this country, you know, and between sort of communities and volunteers, people made the impossible possible, didn't they?
Yeah.
We made things. And so, you know, I think, again, we've got to keep on that rapid pace and show that we can do it. And I think one of the things for me that's shown that is the vaccination rollout. That's been a massive collaboration between the clinical commissioning groups, the NHS, the hospital and the council. And together we've made the vaccination centres happen. So I've been down there, and it isn't just NHS staff, it's council staff, it's the clinical commissioning group, it's volunteers. So that's important. I think another thing is the community sector have been unbelievably amazing. We've invested about £12 million over the last couple of years into over 500 community groups. And, you know, again, they've just been brilliant what they've done. So I think continuing to work alongside communities, we've been recognised as a place for social enterprise. And I think that'll be a big area that, you know, building our social enterprises and working alongside them. And I think the approach we're certainly trying to take is not one of control or sort of constrain. It's about definitely working in partnership and coming together and trying to be effective. And similarly with the business community and with police and fire and, you know, the education sector, how do we all come together to make sure that collaboration remains at the heart of what we do? And when I mentioned to you about community wealth building, that's really building on that whole sort of business economy as well.
Yeah.
Sure. And we've done a lot to sort of bring the business community together too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's great to hear that out of some difficult times, there's some of the best bits are going to move forward. That collaboration piece, that flexibility piece, the fact that your teams are sort of still so motivated. We're pleased that you're also going to be joining us just in a couple of weeks now for the panel session on the future of local government. Got a couple of other local government CEOs and chief execs joining us as well from South Oxfordshire and Dorset. So looking forward to sort of exploring what their experience has been and hearing how they're sort of building back. So I'm interested in finding out from you, what are you looking forward to sort of sharing with our sort of public sector community, and maybe then, learning from them in exchange?
I can't believe May's come round, can you? It's come round really quickly, but excuse me. I mean, I get so much out of listening to other people. I think we lift each other up, don't we? Inspire each other by listening to your peers, listening to what's happening in other organisations. So, I'm really looking forward to taking part, because it's time out where you can reflect. And I think it's really important to take part in these fabulous events that you're running. So for me, it's about that sort of exchanging stories, exchanging learning, and sort of really listening to each other and supporting each other. And I think the other thing it sort of gives you when you attend events like you're organising, when we've all been through such difficult and challenging times, it sort of gives you a sense of hope and optimism. And I think at the moment, holding on to hope and optimism is so important for us all. So again, it sort of gives you a bit of a sort of glow, that you get that positivity, that through the difficulties, you can hear that positivity coming through from other people, and also then sort of celebrate really what we can do together in that new phase. And so for me, it's about sort of holding on to that and seeing what we can do. And I'm really, really looking forward to it, and hopefully learn lots. And then what you do, I don't know about you, but I often find is you then make those later connections, don't you? So you hear something from somebody, and you write it down in your notebook or type it into your notes, and you've made a future connection. So that's why these events are so important, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, that's brilliant. I think there's a role for you in marketing at this point. You've described what we're trying to achieve better than I think I ever have done. So I'm really grateful for that, Alison. But yeah, you're so right. I mean,
happy to help.
Yeah, the public sector, it's not unique, but it's such a sort of sharing community. It's such a space where people want to help, because so many people are in this area because they want to make a difference, and they want to have a positive impact on the communities that are living in. I think what you've said really just sums it up brilliantly. So thank you for that, and thanks. We're really looking forward to having you joining us at the event. We've sort of run through the time that we had allotted. It's been really great to hear what's going on in Wigan. There's a lot of inspiring stuff, and a lot, I think, that other organisations can learn from what you're doing. So all that remains for me to say is thanks so much for joining us, and it's been a real pleasure talking.
Thanks so much. See you again soon. Thank you.
So thank you very much again to Alison for joining me for a really interesting conversation. Some fantastic stuff going on in Wigan, and it's great to hear that they're building back strongly with a community and collaboration-led approach. Alison's going to be taking part in a really exciting session coming up at the GovX Digital Conference on the future of local government. We've got Alison and a series of other local authority chief execs joining us to discuss what the future might look like. So we also have on the panel Matt Prosser, who is from Dorset Council, and we also have Mark Stone, who is from the South Oxfordshire District Council and Vale of White Horse District Council. One of the longest job titles I've seen. His business cards must be spectacular. Also joining that session is our own GM for Government, David Wild, who has extensive experience in local government as well, and he'll be chairing that session and bringing out some of the amazing ideas and projects that are going on across those authorities. The session is free to join, as always, and you can click the link in the show notes below to find out how. The dates are the 18th of May at 8:30 a.m, so you can kickstart your day with some inspiration and future gazing from some of those organisations. And it's free to join, as I said, and we would love to have you there. That's all from me for this episode. We'll be joined by another public sector changemaker soon. But in the meantime, goodbye.